Alright, what is going on, guys? So today I'm going to be showing you guys the exact process I use to flip dirt bikes and make money. So when I was in high school, I did this a lot, and you can actually make pretty decent money doing this. And when you're doing this, you're also going to learn a ton about different bikes, and it's so much fun just getting to learn like all the little components on each bike and really gaining a good understanding of working on them. So I couldn't think of a better way to show you guys this process than getting a bike of my own that I'm going to go through and flip, and then I can show you guys the exact process I'm going to use to go through this bike and get it flipped and make some money off of it. So let's go check out the bike. So the bike we're going to be working on is a 2006 RMZ 450. It's not in the best shape, as you can see. It is torn down pretty far. You can see the engine is out. When I bought the bike, the guy already had the top end torn off of the engine, but the bottom end was still in here. I actually took the bottom end out for a video I did on the differences between the 4-stroke and 2-stroke engine. But anyways, first and foremost, we need to get this bike back to running condition, and after we do that, we're going to be able to get the bike all cleaned up and look much better than it does right now. But the first thing is just to get it running, and then we can worry about making it look good to get that higher purchase price from a buyer. But I'll tell you guys all about the finances later in the video. But right now, I just want to show you guys the engine parts real quick, and then we'll get to cleaning this bike. Alright, and here's the bottom end of this engine, which we'll be looking into later on in the video, as well as this box of parts, which is going to be probably not very fun trying to figure out where all this stuff came from, but it shouldn't be too hard with all the diagrams we have available to us. Alright, so the bike is outside and all ready to get cleaned up. This Maxima BioWash does a great job on painted finishes or graphics, but the Purple Power is just going to be a little bit cheaper, and in this case I don't have any of those surfaces, so I'm not too worried. And then if you guys have heard of the Mag Wheel Cleaner before, you know it's great on cast aluminum surfaces, so it does great on these frames and swing arms, and also any other aluminum parts you have around on the bike. And then as far as scrubbing goes, Scotch-Brite and Primamex cleaning wheels do a great job on scratching up that aluminum and giving it a nice finish, as well as I'll use a few different style of brushes. It's important to spend a good amount of time cleaning your bike when you're trying to flip it. It does add a good amount of value to see a lot of things clean on the bike when a potential buyer's looking at it. It lets them know that the previous owner took care of the bike, and definitely a good thing to do. You don't need to spend several hours doing this just because at some point you lose the value in it, but definitely spend a good amount of time making sure everything's clean on it. Alright, well now that the bike's all cleaned up, the next step is to inspect the engine, kind of go over that. I like to go straight from cleaning to the engine because the engine's really what's going to affect how much this bike is going to be worth and how much I have to put into it. But before I get into that, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what process I use when I'm looking to purchase a bike. Alright, so obviously when you're looking for a bike, you want to find something that's going to be below its market value. I could give you a list of what the market value is and how much you want to be below it, but it's really going to depend on where you're at. So I can't really give you guys a list just because different locations are going to have different values. I have so many viewers from other countries or other states, and I just don't know what these bikes are worth there. But for this video, I'm kind of going to go off what the bike is going to be worth in my state. After you guys research your urine model and kind of determined what the value range is for that bike, you can begin looking for the bike. So what I like to do is I look on my phone usually, and I check Facebook, Marketplace, OfferUp, and Craigslist. And how I do this is I set search alerts. To get these deals, you kind of just got to know where you're at. So here's OfferUp. OfferUp is really big in Washington State where I live, but in other places it may be a different application that's big for you guys, but I think the same thing's still going to apply here. You'll want to set search alerts just so you can be the first to know when that bike's out there, and you don't have to be checking your app all day because these things do get pretty competitive. So I'm just going to look up a random urine model here to show you guys an example. Okay, so surprisingly there is actually a Honda 420. I wasn't expecting that. What I can do is, you can see here, it asks me save this search. So I'll turn that on, and anytime a Honda 420 gets posted, I'll get notified. I can even change the price. So say the market value for a Honda 420 is $2,000, and I want to be $500 below that. I'll set my max to $1,500. And then that way I don't get notified every single time one posts, because I don't really care. If I'm trying to flip the bike, I don't really need to get notified if a one in good shape gets posted. But if it's under that price, I know it's where I want to be at, and then I can go ahead and take a serious look at it. So after you guys get notified, this is a bike I got notified on about a month ago. I'll show you guys the process I go through to actually determine if this bike is worth going and checking out. So this one here is a 2005 CRF 250R listed at $1,000, and down here he's saying that the engine is seized on it, or it's not kicking over. So basically the engine seized, it has engine issues. That's the one thing you want to be careful of on these 4-stroke bikes especially, is when you have engine issues, they do tend to add up pretty quickly. So I just like to do a little bit of math to make sure I'm good, just in case the worst case scenario happens with the engine. So in my area, if this bike was in good running condition, it would be worth about $2,500. Normally if I saw a bike, I would have my search result come up anything $500 off this. That's a good number for me. If you guys were doing this every day, you would want to be doing maybe a little bit less than that, just so you get more bikes coming up. Or if you guys weren't doing this as much, maybe you wanted bigger profit margins on each bike. But anything under $2,000 is kind of what I'm looking for, and this bike is under $2,000. So yes, this bike is pretty cheap, but if we take a look here, these 4-strokes do add up pretty quickly on engine issues. The 2-strokes do tend to be a little bit cheaper, but we'll say $1,500 worst case scenario for engine parts, and then another $1,000 for the bike on the purchase price. You're looking at $2,500 in total expenses, so you're really not making any money there. So sometimes on these 4-strokes, you are taking a little bit of a gamble, and you do want to be careful. Another thing you can do is look at the date it was posted. So this one was posted a month ago, so this guy may be willing to go down in price just because it's been up so long. But on the RMZ 450, I did get a really good price of $650, and we'll have to wait and see after I take a look at the engine if that's actually going to be a good price. And to figure out more on this bike, I really need to get dived into the engine. That's the first thing I need to work on to get a good sense of the value. So let's get to work on the engine. Alright guys, here's the engine, and basically what I was told when I bought the engine is that he was trying to do a top end and he couldn't get the wrist pin out, so he just gave up and decided to sell the bike. It looks like he was trying to remove the wrist pin with some C-clamps or something, and he kind of damaged the piston. Hopefully he didn't get to the crankshaft. But anyways, this wrist pin is seized in there pretty good, so I'm going to have to use a Motion Pro piston pin puller or remover tool. It works great. So you have a special adapter here for your shorter 4-stroke pistons, or for your 2-strokes or smaller CCs that are going to be all the way around. You can use a round one there for the piston, but this one adapts up right to the 4-stroke piston. And what I can do with it is I'll just take a little collet on one end that basically fits in between the small end of the crankshaft, but it grabs onto your wrist pin and it'll just pull it right through. Alright, so you can see here the piston pin was hitting on this one, so it's like sitting too low. So I had to switch it out for the regular one. It's not fitting on there the best, but I was able to jury rig it on here to where it's moving now. So it's not working against itself. So I'm just going to continue pulling this out of here. And we're pretty much through now. Alright, now that we got this piston out, the wrist pin, you can definitely see there's a good amount of scoring, and there's like a firm line on it, like a weld. You can feel your finger running over it. It's like this wrist pin got way too hot and welded itself onto the connecting rod. So hopefully there's not a lot of damage on the connecting rod, but there probably is, so let's take a look. Alright, and if we look closely at the connecting rod here, we can see we have that same line on there that we did on the wrist pin. So they basically welded to each other from overheating. If I took a new wrist pin and tried to fit it in there, it's not going to fit just because of that uprise of the weld there. So we're definitely going to need to tear this engine down and replace some components. We can just hope nothing else is overheated. But this will be a good lesson for you guys when you're buying a bike where he says it's the top end. Usually it's going to be more than just that. So something to be aware of. A lot of people aren't going to be fully honest with you. Alright, but now I'm going to go ahead and tear into the bottom end of this 4-stroke engine here and make sure there's nothing else that needs to be replaced. I'm not going to go super into depth on the teardown in this video just because I have other videos that go more into depth. But in this case, I'm just going to get it torn down. I do have a series coming where I'm going to be super detailed about building 4-stroke engines coming up, so stay tuned for that one. Alright guys, so we got the cases torn down all the way and everything looks pretty good in both these cases. The bearings seem to turn nicely. The only thing I've noticed is our oil strainers here, they do have a pretty good amount of metal shavings on them. So I'm going to take this case over to the parts washer, get it all cleaned up while I have it apart, and also clean off the outside of it. I might as well while it's in there. And then after I'm done cleaning everything up, I'm going to go take a look online and see how much it's going to cost to repair this engine, and I'll get back with you guys then. And since the solvent in the parts washer is water-based, I'm going to take a heat gun here and dry out the water in these bearings just so they do not rust while I'm waiting for parts. Alright, now that the bearings are dry, I'm going to put some Bosch Shield T9 rust and corrosion protection. This stuff works a lot better than WD-40 because it's not water-based, it's actually a waterproof lubricant, so it keeps water out of the bearings. So this stuff works great. I also use it on like raw steel pipes to help them not rust. And you can see here they even have listed automotive engine. And this stuff is made by Boeing, the plane manufacturer, so if it's good enough for airplanes, it's probably going to be good enough for dirt bike engines. And these engine cases did clean up really nicely in the parts washer. They're not perfect. You can see there's still a good amount of oxidation on there, but we would need to hit it with something more aggressive to get rid of that. But that wouldn't be worth our time since we're trying to turn a profit. I went ahead, I'm going to add up everything. So the bike was $650 was the purchase price. It's going to be another $25 to get a Tusk top end gasket kit. And then $100 for a Pro X piston. And then another $337, and that's going to be for a Wiseco bottom end rebuild kit. I decided it would be cheaper to just go with that. And then counting up all these parts, we're going to be at $1,112. We still have a lot of parts we need to order, but this is where we're at right now. And obviously we're trying to keep things as cheap as possible. So I'm going to put on order what we don't already have. Alright guys, well I appreciate you watching the video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell while you're down there so you know the next time I post about this bike. Stay tuned for the next video because we will be rebuilding this 450 engine and it's going to be a ton of fun. So I'll see you guys next time.